Was Rachel Scott an angel? Rachel Scott was a 17-year-old student at Columbine High School. Her journal has been the talk of many conspiracy theories. On April 20th, 1999, 2 gunmen entered Columbine High School and committed one of the worst mass murders in history. In Rachel's journal, she talked about the shooters and how she thought all they needed was friends. The most haunting part to me is that the morning of the murder, Rachel drew a picture in her journal of a flower with an eye crying 13 tears that turned into blood drops. 13 people died that day. Even in her last moments, Rachel still stood up for what she believed in. Rachel was a devout Christian. She was the first victim on that day. The gunman asked if she still believed in God. She answered, quote, "You know I do." She was then shot in the head and killed.
A horrifying piece of CCTV footage. A man tries to abduct a barista through the drive-thru window. Washington State Police have released this clip that occurred on Monday at around 5 a.m. of a man in his car trying to pull the barista out of the drive-thru window into his car whilst he's holding a zip tie device. She's seen just handling cash before he literally lurches out of the window and grabs her wrist, and the other hand has a zip tie. Thankfully, she managed to escape before he just sped off. Despite the terrifying nature of the crime, thankfully, due to the publication of the CCTV, police received loads of tips and actually arrested a suspect on Tuesday morning. The giveaway for the alleged suspect was actually the tattoo, which spelled Chevrolet. Not a very common tattoo, but led to a lot of people phoning in and even giving a name. Thank goodness she managed to get away. That is not okay.
They found this girl, right?
Where?
In our neighborhood. Down our main street.
Is she good?
No,
No,
she's not.
she's dead. That's why this is very important. It's all on you right now.
That isn't my problem.
You were
You
the
were
last
the
one
last
with
one
her.
seen with her. So right now, it's facing you right now, son.
This is Aiden Fucci, a 14-year-old boy from Florida, being questioned by his parents at a police station in 2021. Aiden is being held and questioned under suspicion of murdering his 13-year-old classmate, Tristan Bailey, something he insists he had no part in. But to understand how police came to suspect Aiden was capable of murder, we must go back to the beginning. In the quiet town of St. John.
This is Pennywise. It's an ancient evil cosmic entity which preys upon children every 27 years. Technically, Pennywise isn't the name of the entity, though it primarily chooses to take on the form of a dancing clown by that name. Its true name is allegedly Robert Bob Gray. However, the name It is also used by a group of kids in Derry, Maine, who call themselves the Losers Club. Shapeshifting is just one of its many abilities. It can manipulate reality, it can remain invisible to adults, and most frightening of all, it can manifest your deepest fears and make them become a reality. It originally came from the Macroverse, a void containing and surrounding the universe. It made its way to Earth when an asteroid hit, and lived under the land which Derry was built on. Its main prey used to be indigenous tribes until humans settled in Derry. It sleeps for 27 years and wakes up for roughly a year to feed on human fear. Its primary target is kids, as they're easier to scare. Its true form is a massive orange lights known as deadlights. If you look at them directly, you'll either go insane or die.
What is the scariest thing that could happen while camping? Well, this one guy who was camping in Florida had a horrifying encounter. And before we get into it, I have a podcast episode of 2 of the scariest camping stories I've ever heard if you're interested. So years ago, a guy and his friend were camping in Florida when they came upon this old man's campground. It was in disarray, so they kind of got a bad feeling from it and they turned to leave. But then the guy comes out of the campsite and is like, oh, hey, he wants to talk to them. He starts engaging them. He's giving them suggestions of where to go in the woods, but he's telling them where to go in steps, not in miles or yards. So he's like, oh, the waterfall is 300 steps from here. And one of the guys thinks that's weird because that's really not common in the area to describe where to go. A few months pass and they basically just forget about this interaction, but one day one of the guys calls the other guy and is like, dude, you have to turn on the TV right now. And all over the news are pictures of this guy, the guy they saw, Gary Michael Hilton, who is a serial killer who preyed upon young women in national parks, kidnapping them and taking their lives. Some of the places he told the boys to go look at were places he had hid bodies. Both men were contacted by law enforcement and ended up giving very valuable information in the investigation. So this murdered Texas couple's missing baby has finally been found after 42 years. And the story is crazy. Let's take a look. So in 1981, Dean Klaus, his wife Tina Lynn, and their baby Holly disappeared without a trace in East Texas. The only clue was from an anonymous caller who said that he had found Dean's car in California. And he claimed that 3 women in white robes drove it from Texas to California. Police were actually able to track down one of the women who called herself Sister Susan, and she claimed that Dean had joined a cult and renounced all earthly possessions. And she wouldn't tell them anything else. It actually wasn't until late last year that human remains found around the same time were confirmed to be Dean and Tina's. Dean had been beaten to death and Tina had been strangled. But that didn't answer what happened to Holly. This year, investigators were searching for human remains around where Dean and Tina were found. And that's when they got a genetics hit that Holly was alive and in Oklahoma. But get this, when they were talking to Holly, they found out that she had been left on the steps of a church in Arizona by none other than 3 women in white robes. Investigation is still pending, and they are really trying to figure out who these white-robed women are. But for now, at least we know that Holly is alive and well.
Mi esposo me asesinó de la manera más horrible. Dicho acto fue grabado por mis vecinos y subido a internet con la intención de hacer justicia. Mi nombre es Alejandra Icochu y este es mi trágico caso. Yo era una mujer muy trabajadora y buena. Mi caso ha sido uno de los peores feminicidios en Guatemala porque sufrí una terrible muerte en 2018, cuando mi pareja me atacó con un machete debido a sus celos. El momento quedó registrado en algunos videos, cuando los vecinos, al escuchar mis gritos, llegaron a mi vivienda y grabaron el estado en que me encontraba agonizando. El hecho ocurrió el 29 de octubre de 2018 en Guatemala, donde en altas horas de la noche, las personas que vivían por la zona escucharon mis gritos. Vivía con mi pareja, Mario Tudical, quien fue determinado como el autor de privarme de la vida por las autoridades. En la casa habían cantidades masivas de sangre, según revelaban los testigos de la escena que ingresaron a mi humilde vivienda. Según las declaraciones, mi pareja actuó por sus celos, ya que según él, yo le comenté que iría a la casa de mi hermana, cuando tiempo después me vio saliendo de un camión y así, asumió que le había sido infiel. Después del hecho, mi pareja huyó y fue capturado 4 días después mientras escapaba de la justicia en la aldea Las Muñecas, en Chiche, rumbo a México. Una vez capturado, Mario Tudical fue acusado por mi feminicidio en Guatemala, cuya legislación establece que recibe una pena entre los 25 y 50 años de prisión. Cuando me di cuenta de que yo no pude salvar mi vida, ya era demasiado tarde. Espero que mi caso se comparta para que ayude a las personas que sufren de abuso en casa. Deben de saber que tienen que salir de ahí cuanto antes.
Update, Jade's ruining the vacations with her TikToks.
That was the last TikTok ever posted by TikToker Anthony Barajas, aka Anthony Michael. On July 26, 2021, Anthony and his friend Riley were seeing a movie. On that evening, they were seeing the ironically violent film The Forever Purge, which itself is a critique on American violence. On that day, the two of them were just sitting inside of the theater enjoying the film when suddenly they were both shot in the back of the head. Now, sadly, Riley Goodrich, who was 18 at the time, would die at the scene, but Anthony, who was 19 at the time, was taken to a hospital but passed away a few days later. But why did this happen? Well, it's not a very clear story. So this is Joseph Jimenez, and he was actually arrested the day after the murder. He was the guy who pulled the trigger. Now, Joseph's friends were actually in the movie theater. There were only 6 people in the theater at the time. And they said that during the movie, Joseph was acting strange, he was mumbling to himself, and at one point he left the theater and came back in with some sort of a package. Joseph's friends then left the theater because they were afraid of what he might do, and a few moments later they saw Joseph running out of the side door, getting into his vehicle and speeding away. So it turns out that Joseph had just randomly decided to murder Riley and Anthony. There was no motivation, he didn't know these two, he just decided he had to kill somebody. And strangely, their bodies weren't discovered until after the movie was over, because there was only 6 people in the theater, including Joseph, his 3 friends, and these two. So according to Joseph, he was hearing voices that were saying his friends and family were going to be killed if he didn't take a life. He also stated that he wished he didn't do it, but unfortunately, you can't take back an action like that. It's just chilling that even just sitting in a movie theater, an act of violence like this can strike you. And obviously, rest in peace to Riley and Anthony. This is such a tragic story.
Isang babae ang brutal na pinatay at nilagay ang parte ng kanyang katawan sa loob ng isang Hello Kitty na stuffed toy. Ito si Fan Man Yi, isang nightclub hostess sa Hong Kong. Inabandona siya ng kanyang magulang sa isang orphanage. Nang siya ay tumungtong ng 16 years old, umalis na siya sa orphanage dahil may age restrictions dito. At dahil dito ay naging palaboy siya at nalulong sa droga. Naging SWX worker siya at nang siya ay naging 21 years old, nagsimula na siya magtrabaho sa isang brothel. Ito naman si Chan Man Lok, isang drug dealer at miyembro ng Chinese Mafia. Isa siya sa mga regular clients ni Fan Man Yi sa brothel. Isang araw ay ninakaw ni Fan Man Yi ang wallet ni Chan Man Lok na naglalaman ng 4,000 Hong Kong dollars. Nang malaman ni Chan Man Lok na wala na ang kanyang pera, alam niya agad kung sino ang may salarin at pinabalik ang pera na ito, ngunit may tubo na 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. Agad namang binalik ni Fan Man Yi ang 4,000 dollars, ngunit kailangan pa niya ng panahon para makahanap ng karagdagang pera. Dahil dito, kinidnap siya ng 3 lalaki at isang 14-year-old na babae na si Afong, na isang grooming victim daw ni Chan Man Lok. Dinala nila si Fan Man Yi sa isang apartment kung saan siya kinulong ng 1 buwan. Dito ay tinorture siya. Binugbog siya gamit ang metal bars, kitchen utensils at furniture, at minsan ay nilalambitin daw siya para gawing punching bag. May 1 beses daw na pinagsisipa nila ang ulo ni Man Yi ng 50 beses at nakisali si Afong dito. Pinaso nila ang legs niya para hindi na ito makatayo. Nirape siya at pilit pinakain ng dumi at ihi ng tao. Makalipas ang 1 buwan ay hindi na kinaya ni Fan Man Yi ang kanyang mga injuries at namatay ito. Pinaghiwa-hiwalay nila ang katawan ni Fan Man Yi at pinakuluan ito. Ang kanyang ulo ay pinasok nila sa isang Hello Kitty na stuffed toy at itinapon naman ang ibang parte ng kanyang katawan. Nakita lamang ng mga pulis ang katawan ni Fan Man Yi nang magsumbong si Afong dahil ayaw daw siya tigilan ng multo ni Fan Man Yi.
This is the woman people are calling the real-life Gone Girl. She faked her own horrific abduction and wasted 5 years of police time. You're not going to want to miss this one. It is absolutely insane. This all begins November 2nd of 2016. Keith Papini returned home from work at around 5 p.m. He was expecting to come home to his 34-year-old wife, Sherry Papini, and his 2 kids, but they weren't home. Keith called the daycare where his kids were staying and asked when Sherry came to pick up the kids. The daycare then told him that she never came, so the kids were okay. He immediately finds this very strange, calls the police, and reports her missing. This was taken very seriously by the police. She seemed to have vanished out of thin air. It wasn't long before the news was reporting on it, and her missing posters were all over California. Because there were no leads, fingers pointed at Keith, the husband. Everyone thought it was Keith. He even took a polygraph test and passed it, but people still thought it was him. That's until 22 days later, when Sherry returned. 150 miles away from where she was last seen, a driver finds her walking on the side of the road in chains. This driver called the police and she was brought in. She was covered in bruises. She had lost weight and her back had been branded. Understandably, police were shocked. When asked what happened, she claimed that 2 Hispanic women abducted her. She claimed that they were going to sell her to a man and that's why she was branded. Police were taking this very seriously. Sherry explained in detail the abuse that she went through and the room she was in. She also described the women enough for them to create a sketch of people who did not exist because it was all a lie. Police found it very strange that these abductors just let her go, but this isn't to say that they didn't believe her. They definitely did, and they took it very seriously. They were determined to find out who did this to this poor mother of 2. The government helped pay for therapy for her PTSD and anxiety after this event. During this time, police were testing her clothes, and they finally found DNA. This DNA belonged to a man, not a woman. And she apparently encountered no men during this kidnapping. They put it through the police database and nothing came up. That's until 2020 when they decided to put it through a genealogy database, hoping that someone related to the person with this DNA went on like Ancestry or anything like that.
With this, they were able to find the exact person with that DNA. And this person was Sherry's ex-boyfriend. This story only gets crazier from here, so come back for part 2. It'll be up the moment I'm done filming.
When serial killers are facing death's door, they can be remorseful, they can be profound, but more often than not, they leave words that haunt us, even today. These are the last words of 25 serial killers. Number 1. Jeffrey Dahmer.
In Wisconsin today, Jeffrey Dahmer died. He was murdered in the prison where he was sent in 1991 for murdering 17 men and boys.
Jeffrey Dahmer was notoriously emotionless, and his last words were in keeping with his character. As you may know, Dahmer was faced with a sentence of 957 years, so prison was a place he was never going to come out of alive. But 3 years into his sentence, another inmate thought that his sentence wasn't punishment enough. In prison, Dahmer would be known for his grim sense of humor, and even put up a fake advertisement for Cannibals Anonymous and told one of the guards, "I bite." So, one day, Dahmer was on cleaning duty with 2 other inmates. Seeing as he was now alone with Dahmer, fellow inmate Christopher Scarver grabbed a metal bar from the weight room and gave Jeffrey a taste of his own medicine. He killed him, and he killed him slowly. By the time the guards found him, he was basically unrecognizable. It was a level of justice that was probably deserved. Dahmer's entire demeanor throughout his trial was completely emotionless, and now facing death, his chilling final words were, "I don't care if I live or die. Go ahead and kill me." Number 2. Timothy McVeigh.
A massive car bomb exploded outside of a large federal building in downtown Oklahoma City, shattering that building, killing children, killing federal employees, military men, and civilians.
Another notorious killer in the 1990s was Timothy McVeigh. But unlike Dahmer's devious desires, McVeigh's crimes were politically motivated. Before September 11th, McVeigh's bomb in 1995 was the worst attack on U.S. soil. His explanation? Revenge. U.S. federal security had raided areas in Waco and Ruby Ridge and took their weapons off religious and neo-Nazi groups. McVeigh saw this as an infliction upon their freedom and was paranoid that the US government was trying to disarm the public, and he let the world know his views through a horrific bombing in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma carries the death sentence, and McVeigh knew he would one day be sitting in that electric chair. He showed little remorse and believed that these killings were for the greater good. In an interview, he stated, "Death penalty is what you would call an oxymoron. Death is not a penalty, it's an escape. They treat me like a trophy, like they got me. They're gonna kill me, and we won. They didn't win. In the crudest terms, 168-1. And before facing lethal injection, his last words were just as self-assured. In his final few moments, he said, "I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." This is a line from William Ernest Henley's poem Invictus. This verse was also read out a few years earlier at the funeral of Ronnie Cray, a notorious British gangster. Number 3. Ted Bundy.
This morning, just after sunrise, the man suspected of brutally killing 36 women, many of them in Utah, met the long, drawn-out demands of justice.
If you're even vaguely aware of the evils of Ted Bundy, his last words might come as a bit of a shock. He confessed to 28 murders, with many people believing he was responsible for hundreds. Most of his victims, if not all, were women. Thankfully, he was caught before these numbers got any bigger. Inside the dark and depraved corners of Bundy's mind was an addiction to violent pornography. He was a cold-blooded psychopath who failed to view women as anything other than objects of sexual desire. After decapitating their bodies, he would hold on to their heads as souvenirs. Upon being captured, he maintained his innocence for a long period of time, but when he was put on death row with nothing to lose, he finally confessed. So, after his last meal of some steak and eggs, he was invited to the electric chair. The press waited with bated breath to see what his last words would be.
Ambulance emergency, tell me exactly what's happened.
My mum's got a poorly heartbeat.
Your mum's got a poorly heartbeat?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your address? Do you know your address?
Mum. 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 Mum.
Is Mummy talking to you at all?
She's asleep.
She's asleep, is she? Do you know where you live?
Marham.
You live in Marham? And do you know what number you live at?
1.
1, do you? Okay. Alright, stay on the line with me for a second, okay? Okay, what's your name?
Sasha.
Sasha? Okay, Sasha. My name's Lizzie, okay? And we're going to get some help to your mum, alright?
Okay.
Okay, so do you know what road you're on, Sasha?
No.
You don't know? Okay. Are you with Mummy now?
Yeah.
Okay, and how old is Mummy?
How old are you, Mummy? Mummy? Mum? Mummy?
Do you know how old Mummy is?
Mummy? Mommy? Mummy? Mommy?
Okay, how old are you, Sasha?
I don't know how old she is.
That's okay. How old are you, Sasha?
Pardon?
How old are you, Sasha?
4.
How long has Mummy been asleep?
For 13 minutes.
For 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. And is Mummy breathing?
Yeah, I think.
You think, do you? Can you see Mummy's chest going up and down?
Yeah. Mummy?
Are you able to get Mummy to talk to you at all?
Pardon?
Is Mummy talking to you at all?
No.
Okay.
She's fast asleep and she can't hear me.
She's fast asleep and can't hear you, okay.
Mom! Mom!
Okay. Okay, Sasha. Okay. Is Mummy, is her breathing, is it normal?
Yes.
Is she breathing in and out?
Yes.
Okay. And is she still asleep?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't really wake her up.
You can't really wake her up. That's okay. That's fine. Okay. Well, we're going to get some ambulances on the way to you, okay, so that they're able to help Mummy. Okay. But I want you to just keep talking to me, okay, and wait for our people to arrive, okay? What's Mummy been doing today?
Lots of hard work.
Lots of hard work, has she? Okay, and what have you done today?
I don't know.
Okay, and have you got Daddy there at all?
My dad's gone to holiday work.
Oh, your dad's gone to holiday work?
Who lives with me? He's just gone to holiday work.
He's gone to holiday work, has he? Okay.
I see my mum moving.
You see your mum moving, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, if you talk to her, does she talk to you?
Yes, but I think she's moving while she's asleep.
She's moving while she's asleep, but are you able to talk to Mummy?
She just moved to me.
Sasha, are you talking to Mummy?
Mummy, Mum, Mummy, Mummy, Mummy. She can't really wake up.
Okay, that's fine. Well, I just want you to keep talking to me, okay?
Okay.
Alright. Okay, so what's Mummy doing at the moment?
Still asleep.
She's still asleep, is she? Is she still moving?
Yeah.
Okay, and can you see her breathing still?
Yeah.
She breathing in and out?
Yeah.
Lovely, that's good. Okay. So have you had your birthday then this year yet?
15 days.
15 days?
Yeah.
Oh wow, so are you gonna have a birthday party?
I've got a cut on my foot.
You've got a cut on your foot, have you?
It's only a tiny little cut.
Oh, it's only a tiny...